and welcome at lesson 3. In lesson 3, we're going to talk about infrastructure. So in short, I'm going to give 3 examples of networks environment in how you could use the AFT. We will start with a simple version and then an advanced one and then a cloud version. At first, how does the AFT really fit into your network? As mentioned before, you can have, here's your AFT server and you can have an external database. However, if you have a small environment, you can also run it on the AFT server itself. But in this case, so it is possible to have it externally. Then above that, you would place the AFT gateway. The AFT gateway processes the connections that come from the AFT server are going to the AFT server. Besides that, then you'll have you see so you can have the AFT gateway here and then the firewall is above it and then you connect to the internet. That is in short term how you would implement an AFT. So let's look at some examples now. Now this is a simple one. Like I said, if you're a user and you want to connect, you're connecting through the internet to your through the firewall that you have in your environment, and then you can connect to the AFT server, and from there you can upload the files, whatever you think is fitting for uploading onto the server. Again, this can be done with HTTPS, with SFTP, with FTP if you still wish to use insecure one, or FTP AS and ES. It's depending on whatever is configured on that AFT server and what the firewall allows. So this is the simple version. And the more advanced version, however, would be you have an internet, from the internet you arrive at an F5 load balancer, and that F5 load balancer will look at the traffic where it needs to go if you have one active and one passive machine, or it can have both actives. Then it will forward the traffic depending on where you go. Of course, then you have a firewall in between, behind the F5. And again, you will reach the AFT gateway server first, because that one will process most of the legitimate connections. He will look to see if you actually have right to connect to it. And so between the AFT gateway and the AFT server, you only need to open a very small amount of ports, because you are opening it between the F5 and the AFT gateway server. So this is more secure. If you wish to use an AFT server like this in with multiple machines at the same time, then you will need to think about that you have to have an external database and an external storage, because the AFT servers will both try to write to that machine. So it needs to have it cannot be local storage or a local database anymore, because if it's running locally here, then that server cannot reach it. So it needs to be separated. And so you can see here, this is some of the sample information what comes from GlobalScape themselves. They say there are some extra requirements for software what you need to install. For example, Microsoft Message Queuing. That is software what you can install. It's like a feature in Windows Server. So you can install that. So this is what you need to install on the AFT servers themselves. And like I mentioned before, you want something like a load balancer, so it can be an F5, but whatever else load balancer you wish to use, that will be placed in front, because that one is actually processing the connection where it goes what. Then you wish to have a file share, what can be SMB or a CIFS share. That depends on whatever you prefer in your network. And everything should be accessible through DNS, and should have a fully qualified domain name. This is because if you say it only do everything based on IP address, then it will only go one way. So you want everything to be redundant. So if you do it based on DNS, then it doesn't matter if one server goes down, because you're doing it based on DNS. The last option what you can have is that you can have it run in the cloud. However, that is AFT Icarus. That is not the AFT that you would run on-prem. And so this falls outside of the scope of this course. But still, I wish to mention it, that if you say like, hey, I don't want to have anything run locally all the time, then you can look at AFT Icarus. Then you have your own cloud server. It runs and it looks basically the same, only it's not on-prem. So other side is AFT can also look on external storage and see if files were uploaded there. He can download them locally and then use them. You can use them in your own network to how you think is fitting. So the next question would be, when would I need AFT? Well, like I mentioned before, if you want to, let's say, for example, you have documents in one network and you wish to transfer it to another storage that is offsite,